First of kind, Kapitol Conversations. Name is still up. The name is still up for grabs, but the idea being that we were sitting around reflecting, how do we talk about what we do, and we all love construction, and sometimes messages get a little bit lost when we make these glossy little videos, and we thought, you know what, long form conversation might be a great way to do it. So then we came to the idea of what would be the first thing we'd want to talk about. And the thing that we all uniformly agreed that would be the thing that we really want to talk about is young people in the industry, and in particular how we work with graduates and people in their early career. So on that note, Kira, Head of People and Culture, wave to the crowd. Elliot, our Head of Projects, and we were just talking before about whether he has actually graduated or is on the grad program, TBC.
Very sus.
And Ella, a grad for us currently.
Yeah.
Was a cadet, now grad, been with us for
nearly 3 years.
3 years. Yep. So the idea being is this is not, the drone footage, everyone waving, looking super happy in the grad program. This is probably more a conversation about the good things about the grad programs, the bad things, what the industry's like, and what we hope is that it's interesting for people looking to come into construction, and it might give a bit of insight as to how we do it here at Kapitol. Okay, so maybe I'll kick off, Kira, and if you can sort of tell us what you're new to us in terms of coming from mining.
Mining, correct?
Yep. So been with us for about a year now.
Yeah, just over.
So what's your thoughts about what we do with our early career development, and what you've seen coming into the construction from mining?
I think the biggest learning from me when I came into construction and Kapitol more specifically is probably the investment and the ratio of early careers people. I think we're very unique in our demographic in that we've got, I think it's about 30% of our workforce is under 30, if not slightly more. And it was actually quite a surprise to me. A lot of the traditional graduate programs I've seen in the past, you take 5 to 10. I worked for a global company historically or previously, and they had an intake of 10 for the best part of 1,500 people in Australia. And so coming in and seeing the sheer numbers of our graduates that we had here, I think we're sitting at about 80 at the moment for a workforce of 500. And that to me was really different. And I thought, wow, this is an incredible investment. Our young people really have something to say, and we had some really phenomenal talent. And what I noticed, I think it was one of the...
But I think on that, I'm not sure if that would be true for every construction company.
No.
It's an industry, because when Dave and I started Kapitol up, we were very, very keen on the idea of we want people to join who can grow with us and that we can train up and grow together. We didn't want people stuck in our ways. So, yeah, I wouldn't know what other construction companies are exactly, but I think from what I can broadly observe, Elliot, and you probably hear it too, is I think we probably do skew a bit younger than a lot of other construction companies.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I would agree. And in my experience in talking to peers in the industry, we definitely have a very unique model in terms of the numbers of graduates, and we're definitely getting that feedback at the moment from candidates as well.
So, Elliot, how old are you?
33. Soon to be 34.
Okay, all right, good. Yeah, so you're our head of projects. So you oversee all the construction projects at Kapitol, which is obviously a reflection that you've done very well as a young person. What was your experience in your own career as a graduate, and what that was all like?
I think being a graduate is honestly one of the funnest roles that you ever have in your career. Like, it's an amazing opportunity to you get into the industry, everything's new. If you love construction and you're finding it fun, it's fantastic. The pressure is a bit different because you're not ultimately responsible for what you're doing. You've got a little bit of a buffer there.
But you, because it was a project that I was working on, you started as a cadet.
Yep. I started as a cadet at uni. I think I did 3 or 4 years while I was at uni and studying and working in the industry, which was honestly, that was one of the more stressful times because you're trying to balance everything. Yeah. So I think like that cadetship is really, really great to get that experience while you're at uni. It's awesome. And then when you become a graduate, it's great because that's all you have to focus on, and you can really start, honing in and learning heaps and heaps while you're at work, which is great.
Would you recommend that? Would you recommend it to people that are studying, that it's more beneficial to do a cadetship, or wait?
No, I would highly recommend it. I think it's probably good to do for like a year or two as a cadet, while you're still at uni. I think I did like 3 or 4 years, which was probably a little bit too long because you're just so keen to get into the industry, but you still got that study period to do. So I think 1 or 2 years is great because by the time you become a grad, and that's probably one of the things we can discuss about how we've set up the program, is you can kind of get a little bit of money in the bank early and you're not having to do that long grad program. So yeah, definitely beneficial for a year or two. Yep.
Because that was your experience too, Ella. You started with us. What year of uni were you?
In my second year of uni, like first semester, second year.
First semester, second year. Yep. And what was that like coming in first semester, second year? Like, how did you find? Was it what you expected when you joined, or?
Not at all. Like, I literally would have had no idea. It was like in my first year of uni, I did project management. Never wanted to do construction. Then moved in my second year. So then, like in my first semester, then joined a construction company. I had absolutely no idea, like what was involved. I had no idea where I was going. I got told I was going to a data center. I was like, what is that? Like, had no idea. So it was like a completely new experience, but definitely helped me in my studies as well, like going through to finishing like 4 years of uni and majority of my time working at Kapitol in that time. Like, it made the transition so easy going into the grad program.
And people like yourself who've done, because you would, how many days a week would you have been doing? Or, obviously it changes as a semester changes and the breaks and stuff like that, but how much work were you doing during that period?
4 days a week and then 1 day at uni.
Yep.
But then it was also like if exam time come up, it was flexible.
Yeah.
Like work obviously understands. They've been there, done that before.
Yep.
So it made it really easy to adapt when I was at work and at uni.
I think you touched on it before, Elliot, but that's one of the things that we've recently changed about. We've got some flashy marketing term for our
Elevate.
program. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so, yeah.
Well, I think we invest so heavily and it's such a huge part of our business. It felt like it needed an identity rather than just your standard grad program. And yeah, I think one of the things you and Dave tasked me with when I started was look at what we're doing with our grads. How can we improve? If there's things that are not working, let's change them. And if there are things that are working well, let's do more of that. And so we spent a good couple of months working with all of our, grads, people that had progressed past the grad program. And what we realized was our business moves so fast and there is so much to learn while we're here that it didn't necessarily suit the traditional 2 years cadet and 2 years graduate. We just couldn't quite see where the benefit was from locking into such a structured program. And so, we developed more of a capability-based progression and we looked at people like Ella. Ella was a bit of a test case, I suppose, for us in terms of we saw how capable she was after doing 2 years as a cadet. And we said, why would you do that? Why would you lock her into 2 years as a graduate when she's clearly performing so much more than that? And it seemed like a no-brainer. If we can, why wouldn't we?
Yeah. So you're, at the moment, Ella, out at a data center for us, M3 for NextDC, which is over $1 billion project. So it's genuinely one of the biggest construction projects in Australia. And what's that experience like? If you were to describe to someone who's looking to join as a cadet or as a grad who doesn't have much experience, what's your day-to-day like?
Well, it varies. Like, it varies every day. But like, I started at M3 when it first got handed over from stage 1. And so I've seen it from a completed fit-out data center to now looking at stage 2, which is, starting from ground up. Like, my day-to-day completely shifts, depends what's going on site, who's on site. Like, a lot of grads will always say all the time, like, I have to do like the little jobs or things like that. And like, that's still definitely a part of my day-to-day. But like, doing those little jobs have allowed me to like gain bigger jobs now, like helping looking after electrical.
What are the little jobs?
Oh, like, I wouldn't say that I print or laminate.
This is a bit of internal. This is inside baseball here, but we have a real we have a real hatred of where grads and cadets do menial tasks, and sometimes that can happen, and we're really keen to eliminate that. I think I wouldn't say we're perfect at that yet. But
no, it's definitely been a shift. But like, I always say, like, those little things give you big things. So like, I did print back in the day. I did go get lunch. I did go get coffee. But then now I'm trusted to do other things because I spoke, like, be able to speak to the right people, be able to do the right things. Like, a site manager always told me, like, sometimes getting lunch will be your biggest task of the day. And if you do it right, you will be...
Don't name that site manager.
Yeah, oh God. Oh God.
But you now, you would now, over those 2 years of being a cadet and now starting grad, would have like some coordination opportunities in your role, I assume?
Yeah, well, now I'm helping look after like electrical fit out. I'm doing the fuel. And then I'm also helping out with like all the vertical transport as well on site. So like now that's my own thing. That's what I'm saying. Like, little things give you the big things.
Well, yeah, and I think too, I'll reminisce back in the long past of when I was a graduate, this is when we didn't have a computer each. Like we had one computer amongst 10, and a big part of my job was filing, like, the triplicate books. Again, there'll be people listening to this and don't have any idea what I'm talking about, but it was a long time ago. But what I do recall very clearly is I learnt a lot from being in the office. So even though I was literally, my job was like to dictate, because there was no computers. Like basically a lot of the time I'd walk around behind a site manager or a supervisor, and they would just give me stuff to write down, and then I'd have to go write something because they didn't want to do it. So it was like literally like a secretary, like for lack of a better term. So I was just doing all this really basic stuff. But and I was cadet for 3 years before I was a graduate. And I just recall, and even now, the stuff I learnt just being on site and listening to the problems that people were solving was, I think that's I think I learnt more over the first 4 or 5 years of my career. Not even that it was stuff I was doing myself, but just being around and listening to the problems that people had.
Well, it's even like you'll be on site and someone will be like, oh, I've got a trade coming in. I can't take them on a walk. Can you go take them on a walk? And it's like, you get to really know the consultant well. Like now I'm really good, have a closer relationship with a building surveyor, because I would always take her out on a walk. So now when I need to talk about a building permit or anything like that, I can give her a call and it's fine, because I've built a relationship by taking her on those site walks that, maybe a coordinator couldn't take her on. So I would do that. So I always think it's so beneficial about building relationships, asking questions. Like if there's consultants on a walk, I have to take them, like using those opportunities. Like although it's like, oh, I have to go on this 2-hour walk and I've got, so-and-so to do. It's like, well, no, utilize that walk and actually take benefit from it.
Yeah. What, Elliot, do you think, obviously you being across the projects and as you've worked through the business, because when you started with us, you were a project coordinator. So what do you hear a lot from sort of graduates in terms of, or cadets, in terms of, I guess, their concerns about how their careers will develop? Like, what do you think, people coming in industry are pondering to themselves when they're making choices about where they should work?
I think it's about that structure of the role. It's about like, what's my day-to-day going to look like? What am I supposed to do? How do I know what to do? How do I do the right thing? Yep. So I think like with the system that we've put together, there's a lot of structure around that, about each stage of the process, what your role's meant to look like. Because I think people coming into the industry can get lost really quickly because they don't know what to do. They don't know who to talk to. They don't know how to drive their own career. So we tried to put a bit of structure around that in the program. But I think the advice to anybody coming in would be that you are ultimately responsible for your own development and your career. And I think the grads and the cadets that do really well, like what Ella's pointing to, are the ones that don't say no to anything. They find the opportunity in anything that they're doing, like whether it's a walk or hopefully it's not getting lunch, but if it is, there's not that much opportunity in that. But no, if they do have that, like, hey, here's a small task. Well, what can I get out of that? Like, can I build a relationship? Can I ask a trade about what they're doing for the day? Can I learn something technical? So I think people, coming in, they go, well, what would I be doing? Like, what would it look like? What would good look like? And I think the ones that do really well, they don't say no, they manage their time well, and they see all those little opportunities in the day-to-day.
And I think that's probably the structure and the ability to be able to put your hand up and help push yourself forward. That's something we've really been working on with our Elevate program, is, with the introduction of Ben's role. Maybe if you explain what we've done and how we're trying to put some more structure to that to get better outcomes for people.
So I think what we found is when we were looking at some of the people who maybe didn't make it earlier on, what we really didn't want was for somebody's experience to be completely dependent on the project or the project manager that they were assigned when they started. There was a lot of inconsistency, and what we wanted to do was introduce enough structure that we could have a consistent experience but not lock people down to the point where they didn't have any agency or couldn't really develop themselves or put their hand up for certain projects. So we wanted to say, how can we support our people better? So the first was absolutely appointing an early careers program lead. So Ben Harding is currently in that role at the moment, and the real role he plays is that real central coordination. So he's a point of contact, he's a point of escalation, he can check in. We've got consistent monthly check-ins now where we're working on development and professional development and
what
leadership.
What does the monthly check-ins look like?
Ask Ella. She dialed into one last week.
There was one on Friday.
Yeah.
It was more of an introduction to the program and like what, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And we literally just went through like the schedule of what's going on and, like Kira mentioned, upcoming forums and things like that.
Yeah. Some of the tangible benefits that I've seen with Ben's role is we have had instances where we go, he's got feedback from a grad to say, this is working, this is not working. And we've actually been able to support them
Yeah.
way better than we would have in the past.
Yeah.
Realistically, in the past, someone might have been having a problem, we wouldn't have known, and they would have left the business.
Yes.
And they might have been
Yeah.
someone who could have been with us for years.
Yeah.
He's picking that up through that interaction and that support, comes back to me and says, hey, we've got a problem to solve here. And then we'll actively support that person.
And that's another change as well, because the P&C function over the last 12 months have been a lot more ingrained in the project. So they're out there, they've got really good relationships with our project managers. So they do tend to know what is going on the ground and can have that influence earlier on if, hey, there is a challenge or we need somebody needs a little bit more support. The other, I suppose, secondary real value of those forums, which are quite new, is creating the community. So I think, often if we've got a smaller project and we only have one grad, we don't want them to feel isolated and alone. So the whole idea is that they get to know each other. We've got the group chat, which is pretty much every early career person and quite a few other people in Capital as well. Just welcoming new people every week when we have new starters.
Have you found that of any value, Ella?
Yeah, because we've always had a good grad program. Since I've joined, and I was the only grad as well when I first started out at one point.
I think that's pretty generous of our grad program. It's an Excel spreadsheet.
No, but I mean there always has been a close relationship with other grads on other projects. And I do think that it's definitely gotten tighter, especially with Ben getting involved as well. And you mentioned the group chat, it's so much easier to reach out to other grads, see what they're doing in their project. I get calls from other grads to see what we're doing, and it's definitely a close-knit group. We're not uncomfortable to talk to them and figure out where they're doing and where they're at as well.
I always thought that when I did it, it was very much a bit of a sink or swim vibe, and I'd be curious to get people's feelings on what that's like for Capital now. Maybe let's get Elliot's point of view on, where we're at on the sink or swim sort of ratio.
I think there's a reality of what construction is like, which you don't always know when you come out of university, like yourself. I remember when I came out of university, I was like, what do you mean Saturdays? What are we talking about? No one told me that when I signed up for construction. So I think there's a reality of construction is a very, specific niche industry. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. So there's some people.
But for us, I wouldn't say we don't work any Saturdays, but we're not big on that. Back because when I used to be chopping wood on a Saturday, that you should do a Saturday. We don't want to do that where we don't need to. So I don't know what that's like.
I've never worked a Saturday.
Yeah, well, that's and that's not because you're not working hard. It's
just because we don't work Saturdays.
Because we don't work Saturdays. Because we wanted to get away from that sort of back in my day stuff.
Exactly right. Yeah, and then I think with the sink or swim, I think we have the scaffolding and the support to know who needs support now. Like we sort of said before, we have the conduits there to be able to understand who needs support, and we're managing that way better. So no doubt there's still some people that go, this isn't for me, and that's absolutely fine. That's cool, that's life. But I think at the moment we have a way better handle on how we can actually support people in their roles, and we don't have people kind of getting lost in the system as much.
Yeah. But we would still, because my feeling on it is that some of that sink or swim, not that it's quite that extreme, but that, I don't know what the right way to say it is, but pushing people, putting them out of their comfort zone to grow, we would still do that.
Absolutely. But I would say that probably applies at Capital more broadly, well beyond the early careers program. I think we've got exceptionally high standards, and we don't tolerate mediocrity. And I think anybody coming into any role will be challenged and will be pushed out of their comfort zone here. And we make that really clear. We're not for everyone. It's an incredible place to work, and we're achieving some really awesome things, but there is that level of expectation. And so I think for early careers, it's just important to offer that level of additional support, especially when you haven't worked anywhere else before. We still want to see those people that push themselves and want to be involved and want to put their hands up, and there's still the opportunity to differentiate there. But for people who maybe need just that little bit more confidence or that little bit more encouragement, we didn't want to lose really great talent who just needed that little bit additional support along the way.
And what do you find, Ella, the training like at Capital? Because it's one of the things that we've been over the last probably 4 or 5 years. 4 years.
Yeah.
Been really trying to ramp up the training. How have you found that?
Well, really beneficial. We do our weekly trainings as well, and coming from someone who has absolutely no experience. Obviously I've never been in another construction company before. Whilst I was at uni, go to a
just to let you know, we're the best.
No, but I come from uni where, you really do learn the bare minimum at uni, and you're only looking at a small section of what the industry actually offers. So like when I'm going to a weekly training session and I'm looking at like, waterproofing and, things like that, I'm like, I would have never known this before. They're really insightful. Also like weirdly opens you up, like when you're in the training session, you can see people from other projects. You're like, okay, like I kind of know who they are. Like when they presented something, I was like, okay, well, if I ever find that problem again, like I'll give them a call or something like that.
And just to give some context, we have Capital Training Hour where everyone in the whole company has to do an hour of training either on a Tuesday or a Thursday at 3:30. So we basically shut down half the people so that you have to do training. So, and most of it's delivered, it's on Teams, but delivered in person in general. What about you, Alec? What was training like for you when you were a grad back in the day?
I think training, I was just thinking about this when Ella was talking. I think training was literally like do something, stuff it up, learn from it. Like that was literally the job.
Like personally.
Yeah, personally. Like it's just like, you go and the first time you manage something on a construction site as a grad, like you get some responsibility. Inevitably, without any training, you just go and make a meal of it. Like I can remember installing, I was tasked with getting some handrail installed over a stair void back at the Melbourne Uni architecture building.
Temporary handrail?
Yeah, temporary handrail.
Okay,
temporary handrail. And I said, yep, no dramas, got the trade out. Here you go, guys, rip into it. Absolutely no idea about exclusion zones, people working above and below, and genuinely made an absolute mess. I got a whole area shut down for 2 days. It was a disaster. And, that's a learning experience and you never do it again. But I think like having that proactive approach to it and trying to get people technically upskilled has been awesome at Capital. And it's not something I'm sure a lot of other companies are doing.
Yeah. What's been your biggest sort of mistake that you've made as a graduate where you've gone, oh, geez, that wasn't ideal?
Oh, like I make like heaps of mistakes. Oh,
awesome. Great.
I don't know any specific like mistakes that I make. Like, I've coordinated some things where I'm like now, I don't want to say it out loud.
No, please do because we.
No, this one's not like my biggest one, but like currently having more problems with the loading dock install, which we have on every job, and there's been like 1,000 lesson learned.
And what's that? The slab profile just not being right, or?
Oh yeah, there was something wrong with the cast in, so it's. But like it's things like that, like little mistakes that I constantly make now with coordinating, and I'm learning along the way.
Yeah. It's a funny job. Being a grad and working into being a coordinator and all that sort of stuff. In that, I always say to people, I reckon there's nothing more rewarding than like you might work on getting that loading dock for 6 months because you've got to coordinate all the in-ground services. You've got to coordinate with the electrician. You've got to coordinate with the concrete to get the slab profile. You've got to coordinate with the supplier, and then when it comes and all fits and works. Everyone's like, yeah, that's what it's meant to do. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah, I know. Like, and so you kind of never get any credit in a way for things that work the way they're meant to. It's just, that's what's meant to happen. And then when it doesn't work, like everyone wants to know your name at that time. I always remember that as like the stuff that, when it works, no one notices it. But I always found it very rewarding. Like that whole, I worked on that thing. Like my first job in the industry as a cadet was the National Gallery of Victoria, the St Kilda Road one. Which is an amazing building. And I was in charge of, as a cadet, they gave me the door schedule to look after, but they also, this is stuff I don't recommend that we ever do, Elliot, but we also split up all the different bits. So
I did that as a grad too.
Yeah. And so we bought the doors separately, we bought the door frame separately,
and
we bought the hardware, and we bought the installation, and they put me as a 19-year-old kid in charge of the door schedule. And there was a lot of design changes in that job, and there was 164 revisions of the door schedule. This is very niche. This might be a separate podcast.
Yeah.
Doors podcast. Doors. Yeah. But I remember being in charge of it, and like the mess I made, because at some point I got so confused because everyone was just coming, all the supervisors were just coming and pounding me about where's my door frame, where's my lock, where's my this, where's my that, because they wanted to finish their area. And I just couldn't keep up with how much it was changing. And I started like swapping bits of hardware for other bits. And that is, again, for young players, once you do that, the game's over. And at the end of the project, there was a room, the people can't see the size of this room that we're in, but a very sizable room stacked with door hardware that was all redundant that had to be delivered for 10 cents in the dollar back to the hardware provider.
I had an area in the basement of the job that I did the exact same thing for door frames.
Yes.
I had about 20 door frames that just could not be installed.
Yeah. The 20. Trust me, I didn't even talk about the door frames. Like the door frames were nothing compared to all the hardware. But I always, and I still go to that I go to the art gallery because I'm so cultured. I go to the art gallery and I actually look at the door frames and the doors more than I look at the art, because I can actually remember working on, like, there's one door. They're
holding up, obviously.
They're so niche that, like, this is going to bore the crap out of everyone. But there's one door frame. It doesn't comply with anything, but it was like a fire-rated door to the kitchen that opens in two directions. And like me trying to work out how to do this door frame took months. And it obviously that was a different time. So I'm confident that wouldn't pass any fire tests ever. But it was amazing. And like, I still walk through and I see that door and I'm like, oh, I did that door. Like, and I feel really proud about it. Like, so I don't know if you have that feeling where you walk around and you're like, I did that. I worked on that.
Yeah. And like, I think the mistakes, like, I learned from them. Like,
yeah.
There's like, my mistakes are, small.
Yeah. And I think that whole, mistake thing, and I'll be interested to hear what everyone thinks. Like, what we're trying to create at Capital is we don't look at mistakes as mistakes. We look at them as opportunities for learning. So how have you found that? Like, have you felt that you can be open about the mistakes you're making?
I mean, you go on Viva and there's, 20 lessons learned a day.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's common across the board.
Yeah. And for people who don't know, Viva is broadly like Facebook for business.
Yeah.
So anyone can post. So we've got a real culture of sharing. If you've had a mistake or something went well, people don't tend to share those. It's back to what I was saying before. Things that go well, no one pays attention to.
Yeah.
But we're trying to create this culture where you can share lessons learned. And I think the exciting thing will be for grads is that's that storytelling of, like, you get to learn from that. And did you find that? Do you think that you're learning from seeing other things that have gone wrong?
Or like, if you're about to do something, search it up.
Yeah.
See what else is going on. See what other people are doing. And then I will share my mistakes as well and be like, oh, this is a lesson learned that I found as well.
Yep.
I'm like, this is how it could have been avoided.
It really humanizes it.
Yeah.
Like, you're not the only person that feels like you stuff up from time to time, and, you see someone that's more senior than you or has been doing something for a really long time. Something's gone wrong. Like, oh, okay. It happens to everything. There's really a lot of value in them sharing that knowledge.
And you're encouraged to do it. Like, you're encouraged to share my lessons. Like, okay, my mistake can benefit someone else. Like, it's not, this awful thing that you can't talk about.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing that, and again, every business has a different culture, but the culture we're trying to get is that, like, making a mistake is fine, right? It's what we're doing is so complicated. There's so many moving parts. But what we want to try to avoid is making the same mistake again and again and again. And I think that construction companies can really feel like that. And I think that the benefit for young people coming into our business, into the Elevate, is that you get to learn from other people's learnings, not go, oh God, if I make a mistake, I'm going to get in trouble, so I need to keep that to myself. So, like, hopefully, I'm sure it's not perfect, but like that's what we're trying to keep building and sort of, layering that on. As you come on, Kira, we've made quite a change to the grad program. What were the big things that you changed when you sort of came in and looked at what we had?
The first big change was probably bringing in somebody to oversee it and be that, central point of coordination and escalation.
Because what did it look like without that person? What was the problem with it?
We had quite a high rate of turnover in the first year.
Yep.
We also saw that a lot of the turnover in the first year were actually female cadets. And we did a little bit of research into why that was, and it was a general feeling of lack of support. We partnered as a trial with an external company called the Trellis Collective.
Yep.
They run a program called The First Five, and what they found is that young girls, when they come into the industry, if they leave a job in their first 5 years, they also tend to leave the industry. So for an industry that is so challenged from a gender perspective, that's something that they're doing to try to give back. And I think at this stage we've run about 15, and it works on things like confidence. And when you are the only grad, or if you are the only female in your team, how to advocate for yourself and how to build that confidence in such a different industry. So that was a change that we've made that we've got some really, really great feedback on. And then they also circle back to the managers there as well.
Do you think we've made a difference for that yet? Or
we have seen a huge increase in the people who are retained with us. So the attrition has really, really shrunk. And I think a lot of that is probably bringing the consistency into the program.
Yep.
The second piece of feedback that we got was,
I think hopefully we're getting better too at as you sort of touched on before. We've also got to communicate that, like, this is a pretty high performance team that you're going to be joining. Like, not so much the hours, hopeful. Obviously the Saturdays are good, but we're trying not to be high performance in that you've got to work crazy hours. We want you to be...
Standards are high.
That's right. We want it to feel like the
Yeah.
standards are high
Yeah.
and you're surrounded by really talented people, and you've got to be at that level.
The best gift you can give your colleagues is really high performing team. You know, be surrounded by people that challenge you and motivate you. I think is probably the best thing you could possibly hope for in a team. One of the other pieces of feedback that we got was there probably was a bit of a lack of transparency in what moving through the program looked like. What do I actually need to do to be a second year grad? What does good look like? And that's really where we introduced the capability-based progression. So it's a way of saying to someone on their very first day, here you go, this is what good looks like.
What does capability-based progression look like? Like what does that mean in practice? If I'm a 20-year-old studying university at the moment, what are we saying when we say that?
It gives you a bit of an outline of what you need to learn and what you need to be able to do. So if you are early on in the program and you're doing a site safety walk, it's what should you be learning as you're going around that site safety walk? And then when you're actually leading them, what is it that you should be able to do? If you're looking at a quality process, something like a first of kind, what should you be asking? What are you looking at versus what are you doing when you're leading it? So it actually spells out what good looks like. And if you can demonstrate that after 2 years as a cadet, you can potentially, accelerate. It's really just giving you the steps of what progression looks like so that you've got a guide without really sort of being in the deep end. And I think it's also, maybe you can talk to this a little bit, I think it's really helped our project managers because it's given them a lot more structure around what they should be teaching and what they should be looking for rather than I'm so busy, my grad's just going to figure it out themselves. So that's probably been a real change. The other thing I would probably say is we moved away from the promise of rotations. I think it's something you see a lot. I think it's something you see a lot in the industry is, we'll give you rotations and we'll put you on these projects and you can go from a data center to residential. And the reality is we can't always promise that. If you come in and we're in the middle of the project and you're absolutely nailing it, we may not be able to pull you out. And so what we did change was we may not be able to promise you a rotation, but we can get you exposure across different career pathways.
Which that we definitely need to do. But it's such a vexed issue. I was actually, we do a new starters lunch and I was talking to a cadet and they were like, I sort of thought we'd do like 3 month rotations, 3 months here, 3 months there. And I'm like, I think, and I don't know what you think, Alla, but I think that our grads and cadets do genuinely meaningful work that make a difference to the project. Like you're not a student learning. You are learning, but you are doing meaningful work that needs to happen for the project to succeed. And I ponder whether that's possible if you're moving around every 3 months. So
I'd love to know why.
Yes, you want to see something start to finish, like you said, with that coordination and see it actually. That's where you learn. You see the whole thing.
Yeah, when you go to coordinate the loading dock and then you work out it doesn't fit. Yes. Yeah. So I think that's because I hear that a lot and I think it's a really, and even we debate it a lot internally too. Yeah. It's like, it sounds really good, but I think in practice it would sound better than it would be in reality.
I'd love to know why you laughed.
Because we probably promised that you would rotate you around every 2 weeks or something.
No, I did my stint in estimating and that was my rotation. But no,
How did you like that?
I wouldn't go into estimating.
But we're always looking for graduates for it's a niche.
It's a niche.
It's just not what I want.
No.
But I started on M3 stage 1 doing defects and I was doing it for a year and I was like, I saw everyone else doing exciting fun projects from the start. I was like, I want to do a rotation. But now where I am now, it was a very natural progression. Yeah. I learned probably the most I ever learned doing defects and looking at everything. Yeah. People ask me now that, Melissa is a senior coordinator now on stage 2. She did stage 1, but she'll ask me questions about stage 1 because I looked back at everything and
you saw the end result.
Yeah.
It's funny how much you learn doing it. You don't want to do it forever because it is miserable work.
But you do learn so much, and a lot of grads are like, but I don't want to do it for a long time because I want to be doing structure. I want to be doing this. It's no, when you naturally go into it and you find your path, it works.
And the other thing, when you do start out doing that, which you do a bit of, it makes you have all these conversations that are really difficult because you're usually ringing up someone to ask them to do something they don't want to do.
Talking to the client.
Yeah, and then you talk to the client about something that we haven't done properly, which, that's never great. So it's a whole lot of actually really interesting.
It does really throw you in the deep end because you are uncomfortable, calling everyone.
Yep. So you did an estimating rotation, but do you feel like you've over your 3 years with us that you've seen different parts and it's giving you a broad experience? Or
100%. I've had a taste of everything.
Yeah. Yep.
I think to add to that, you said, what else did we change? The very last major change I would call out is probably opening up different career options at the end of the program. So, we mentioned the Rudge rule earlier where, off the back of Ella's experience, the Rudge rule, she did her 2 years as a cadet and went straight to second year grad.
Yeah.
We had another grad in the program who made it right to the end of the program. I think he was about a month out and went, I don't know that this is for me. I would much rather, do a Dave Caputo and pursue a career in site management first. And so
you've heard the legend of Dave
we
Caputo.
have heard the legend. I couldn't not drop it.
Yeah. The myth. It's the man, the myth. Yes.
But, when he said that, we considered that as well and said, well, why not?
Yeah.
And I remember being at our graduate retreat, which we run every 2 years,
Yeah.
to really take all of our grads and early career people off site and hear from them and their learnings and what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
And I remember asking the room, if anyone's brave enough, raise your hand if project management is not for you. And we probably had about 15 of the cohort said they were interested. And off the back of that, we've had people transition into site management. We've had people transition into commercial estimating.
Yeah.
We have had a couple go into estimating.
Yeah.
And also, I think design as well. So it's been really amazing to see people say, hey, love it here, but I would really like to explore and having the different functions. It's saying like, awesome, let's do it.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's a funny thing. I don't know if it's certainly when I was younger, you just everyone thought they should be a PM, and I don't know if that's still the case at university, or if that's the culture of it all.
I think at uni, it's definitely this like kind of ego thing to be like, I'm going to be a PM and I want to be a CM, like I want to do this.
Yep.
But when you actually go in the industry, everyone's like, oh,
That looks hard.
yeah, that's a little too much. No, but you're like, oh, like supervision looks cool. But I don't think people actually understand like what supervisors do, what site managers do, and like what like a design manager does. Like you never you don't really get that at uni. It's all like PM.
Yeah. When people ask me, what should I do? I'm like, you know what I reckon is like, it'll take a couple of years to actually just do different things. And like you do a bit of estimating, that's not for me. Like you do a bit of administration, I don't really like that so much, or you might. It just takes a while to find the bit you love. And the bit you love, you'll be really good at. Like if it really fires you up, if you just love design and resolving the design and working with consultants, and you'll probably be an excellent design manager. So like I always say to people, don't prejudge what you think you want to do, because it's, as you say, at uni, how could you know? Like you just could not know until you actually have a
if you try a bit of it, like if you try a bit of different areas, then by the time you do pick what you want, you actually know what the other functions do.
Yes.
You do
and how
find
to work with
exactly
them.
right.
Yeah. We'll wrap up. But maybe we'll just talk about, I'll cover 2 topics. Ali, what do you think some of the success story, we've been doing it for 8 years, and I think this year, the Elevate is the best version of our grad program, because we're so into it. But we have been hiring grads for a long time. Like what are the success stories you've seen over the journey?
There's heaps, like, to point to. We've got people from Next ECM3 Stage 1, which was a job that I project managed that Ella came onto the back end of. We have, I think, 3 senior PCs out of that now, and they were all grads at that time. And, all those people, they're on different projects, build to rent, data center. They're project leaders, building things that, and leading massive packages. Massive
and probably with 5, that'd probably come up to sort of 4 or 5 years experience.
Yeah, they'd be like 4 or 5 years
grad.
experience. Yeah. And then we even have people coming into APM roles now that have come through the grad program at Kapitol. And like you say, with the grads now picking some of those different pathways, which we didn't really used to do. Yeah. So now we have people that are going into supervision. They'll be our future site managers. We have people going into design managers, like you said. So for me, that's the most exciting part, is now we have people going into different parts of the business, and they'll know the whole business back to front. So there's a heap of success stories now for project leaders, and super exciting to see what we'll get out of this grad cohort as well.
Maybe we'll just finish up. So what was your, did you do a grad program? How did you get into your industry?
I started in entry-level sort of admin, and I actually had the opportunity to go back and do my honours year at uni or continue working, and chose to keep working. I went to a site role, but I think one of the things I used to do was insist on sitting in the meetings of the people that were more senior than me.
Yeah.
I used to beg them and said, I'll take your notes, I'll do whatever I can.
Yeah.
And I just used to ask them so many questions. Why would you do that? Why does that work that way? And I found that asking all of those questions of people that have walked that path before me was super useful for my learning.
Yeah. So I'll finish with 2 questions to everyone. What advice would you give a new graduate or a new cadet looking to come into the industry, looking to come in with Kapitol? Like, what would be the advice? And what advice would you give your young self on the same sort of vein?
Starting with me.
Yeah, why not?
Coming into our industry, I would say be brave.
Yeah.
Put your hand up for everything. And I would say none of us know everything. So don't feel like you have to know the answer to everything. And what advice would I give my younger self? Was probably some advice I got when I was in my early 20s from a very harsh boss. And it was ask for forgiveness, not for permission.
Oh, yeah.
Just get involved and don't wait on the sidelines.
Yeah. That's good advice. I kind of live my life like that to a degree.
My advice to grads coming in would be similar, is that it's okay to make mistakes. It's better to try and make a mistake than not try at all, and that you need to own your own career progression in your own career. You really need to manage that. And my advice to myself would be the same thing, is that it's okay to make mistakes. It used to really eat me up, when you'd make a mistake, and it used to when I first started really affect me, because you want to do a good job. Yeah. So just the advice is like, it's all going to work out. Fine to make mistakes and have a crack, but don't let it get to you.
I remember, I reckon the most stressed I ever was in my whole career was not so much when I was a cadet, because you're coming and going, it felt a little bit different, but as a grad, that first 2 years, I was on a job that was really not going well, and I learned a lot the bad way. But I couldn't sleep at night. I used to talk in my sleep, and I look back at the problems I was worried about, and they're just tiny. Yeah. I just found it took me a long time to work out that actually, truly, as long as we don't hurt anyone, all the other problems will work out. But that just took me a long time, because it was just so much. I had so much pressure on myself that I was so stressed out about it all. I couldn't sleep. I used to, at one point, I remember I used to drive to work, and I had to drive an hour and a bit to get to work because it was in Geelong. And I used to drive and go, fuck, I hope it rains today. And the reason, that's right, it's because I was like, if it rains today, we'd have to deal with this. I'd have to deal with this, because I was so wound up about it. And it just took me so long to work out that actually, I don't know if you find that, Ella, were you always relaxed about it, or were you beating yourself up?
I have nightmares all the time.
Oh, okay, so the nightmares stop. They actually stop. But yeah, it's a real thing. And it's hard to explain that to people. Hey, well, you know what? We'll solve these problems. It's not ideal.
You kind of need a bit of that, but you don't want it to be impacting you.
You don't want to be so relaxed that you don't care at all, but you also don't want to be talking in your sleep.
Or praying for rain.
Or praying for rain, as I used to pray to drive and pray for rain. Yeah. That was your advice to yourself? That was good advice.
Advice to myself. Yeah. Yep.
Mine, just take every opportunity that comes your way.
Yeah.
No matter how redundant you may think something is, everything you
I'm not
learn.
Supporting getting lunch. I want to be clear.
Reject that request.
Feel free. I want this to go on the record that you can reject that opportunity. Yes.
No, not those ones, but
no, you're right. Say yes to everything.
Just literally say yes. I'll do it. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Never say no. Oh, I don't know how to do that. No, how do I do it? Or I'll find a person to ask that will help me.
Yeah.
That's probably the advice I'd give myself, is just strap in and just keep going.
Yeah. And is that the same advice you'd give to people looking to come into the industry?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, I think on that note, we might wrap up the inaugural Kapitol Conversation. A conversation with a K, I think, is the current. It's work in progress. So yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for taking the time. Cheers. Bye.